Hey everyone, welcome back to Solo Party. My name is Kane, and let's hop right back into Chapter 2. It's the start of the Nightmare's turn, and they have the Reckoner trait, which means that they will be targeting the most cursed hero, but they will not be able to reach anyone this turn, so they just move forward. We hit side A of the Dreadful Raid, so no enemies are spawned, and we flip to side B. Then for Vorn's turn, he will move up 4 spaces and be out of range for an attack. For Catherine's turn, we will move 3 and use our free minor action to interact with the special token to see our first Eradrin surprise. And our first surprise is the Lost Survivor. Rummaging through rubble, you unveil a hideout where a survivor sought refuge. What story do they have to tell? Go to resolution number 121. The Blind Seer. Searching through the wreckage of a market stall, you find a stunned survivor. The man stayed there not because he was injured, but because he is blind. The end is near. When the apprentice turns against the master, the son will turn against the father, and the brothers will fight each other for the outsider's delight. I saw it, I saw it, the man states, grabbing you by the collar of your clothes. You now face a dilemma. You may ask the man to run towards the solemn quartermaster at the wharf square, and if you choose to do so, go to resolution number 122. On the other hand, you may ask the man to run towards the harbor and wait for the pristine swan. If you do this, go to resolution number 123. And I think it makes more sense to send him to the quartermaster, so we'll go to 122. You direct the seer to the quartermaster. You know that the man will be in good hands under that veteran's tutelage, so you break free of his grip and without wasting any time, direct him towards the wharf square. If there is an interaction token on the board, the man stumbles his way until he safely reaches the captain's welcoming arms, and you write down the Vision Beyond Reach aura on your campaign log. As long as you have it, all ranged weapon attacks you make and ranged effects you cast gain +1 range, then you may continue to play the adventure. Alright, wonderful. And that aura will remain until we receive a trauma cube or another aura to replace it. Now, Katharina will use an agility cube to use Remove Curse on Nyx for a heal 2 and Cleanse to get rid of her curse cube. Nyx will also gain Shield 1 from Katharina's passive. Then we will have an Unwilling Recall, and last we will spend a melee cube to move 3 more spaces. Then the Gorgon Hexer's turn. First up is the blue one, and it is stunned, so we will just remove the token. Then the Polymorphed Gorgon will draw its next Errant Behavior card, and we drew Onward. The monster moves 1 ahead. If it can't move ahead, the monster just turns 180 degrees, but we will be able to move forward. And then we are going to break enchantment. If the character is under a polymorph effect, they return to their normal form, but they don't activate this turn. So we will just move forward as the Capybara 1 space, and then the Gorgon Hexer breaks the enchantment and ends the polymorph. Then our brown Gorgon Hexer will activate, and there are no heroes to voodoo the poison onto, so it takes 1 damage from the poison, going to 4 health. It will then move 3 spaces toward Vakram and does not get in range for an attack. Then our white Gorgon Hexer will just move forward, and up next is Nyx. Nyx begins her turn in stealth and moves 3 spaces forward. Then we will use an agility cube for ninjutsu, gaining us 1 focus, and then we can swap places with the furniture, which we will do with the bookshelf. Then we will perform a willing recall and use a ranged cube for concoction shot on the blue Gorgon Hexer. We are in stealth, so as long as we hit with the attack, our damage will double to 6 and be enough to defeat the enemy. We have a +5 to hit from the skill itself and attacking from advantage. And a 6 will be enough to hit. That ends Nyx's turn, and we will now draw 1 rune from the rune bag and flip it to side B. Vakram starts by moving 3 to the pile of runes, and then he will initiate a ranged bravado attack on the Gorgon Hexer. A successful hit means that it will die to poison at the start of its turn if we end up just wanting to leave it alone. We get +3 to hit, and a 14 will do it, taking the Gorgon Hexer down to 1. We will then spend a melee cube to take 2 runes off the pile and into the bag. Next is the Nigean Hunters. They are too far away to attack, so they will just be moving 5 spaces towards our strongest hero, and then it's Andreas' turn. We will have him start by using his free minor action to loot the bookshelf for a scroll of our choice from the chest deck. And we will choose a Scroll of Protection. This lets us use it as an interrupt instead of a minor action to prevent all damage to ourselves, but with Andreas' Warden trait, we would also be able to use this for adjacent allies. Then he will move 3 spaces forward and use a range cube to focus 1 and cleanse 1 on Nyx. This removes her curse cube and puts her at 2 focus. We will then use an agility cube to move forward 3 more spaces, and hopefully our other heroes can handle this room as they come in. That'll be it for Andreas, and now back to the Nightmares. They're still not quite close enough to reach us, but they will move forward 4. Now we hit side B of the dreadful raid, so we will spawn 2 more nightmares. And because our heroes back here should be able to take them out pretty easily, we will spawn them at the back pile of runes. Then Vorn will activate and move to take advantage of his cleave and finish off the Gorgon Hexer and take the blue nightmare down to 3 health. Katharina will start by moving 1 and using her free minor action to search the chest. We rolled the poison icon, so Katharina will take poison 2. In exchange, Katharina will find a potion of strength, which she can discard to perform self, cleanse 2, and empower. We will then finish our movement and move 2 more spaces. Then we'll expend an agility cube to move 3 more, and thanks to our aura from the Eradrin surprise event, we can attack the nightmares at range 2, giving us the advantage on high ground as well. We get plus 5 total for reality revision, and if we hit, we will defeat the blue nightmare. And we rolled a natural 20, making short work of this nightmare. That will end Katharina's turn and on to the Gorgon Hexers. They are still not quite able to make it in range for the attack, but will both move forward 3 spaces. And then Nyx will activate. She will move 3 to the other nightmare. We want to kill this nightmare because we can't remove runes from a pile of runes where there are monsters adjacent to it. So we will start with a melee cube for Pounce, giving us plus 3 to hit. And a 13 will hit, taking it down to 3 health, and because it is still fine, also a bleed 4. But we are going to try and finish it off with a sucker punch, giving us a plus 2 to hit. But we unfortunately miss on a 3, and so Nyx will, however, still gain a curse cube and go back into stealth. Now we draw 2 more runes from the bag and go back to Vakram. We're going to start Vakram's turn with a willing recall and use a melee cube for bravado, so as long as we hit, we will take out the nightmare. And that's another nat 20. With the nightmares gone, we will use a melee cube to remove 2 more runes from the pile and then move 3 towards the middle. Vakram will then use his free minor action to interact with this surprise. This time we drew Assault. Rummaging through rubble, you end up freeing a monstrosity otherwise trapped due to its clumsiness. We summon 1 rookie gray monster in the square previously occupied by this special mechanic token. So we will summon another Gorgon Hexer right next to Vakram. Then the Nagian Hunters will activate, and they're still not close enough to attack, so they just move 5 and on to Andreas. We will start by using the Black Harpoon for the first time on the Gorgon Hexer. We get plus 5 to hit, and an 11 hits, taking it down to 9 health. And then I can drag it into a space adjacent to me since it is a small monster. Then we will use a defensive strike to give 2 shields to Vakram thanks to our Warden ability. We get a plus 3 to hit, and a 13 hit, meaning the Gorgon Hexer is down to 6 health. We will then move 3 spaces, and it's now the Nightmare's turn. They want to be going after Nyx, who's the most cursed right now, but since they can't reach her, they will settle for Andreas, who is closer. He will get attacked by 2 and use a magic cube for Endure to prevent 3, and then perform an unwilling recall. The next Nightmare will target and attack Andreas, who now has 2 curse cubes, the same as Nyx, but this time we will use our Endure from the Warden roll so we can expend our Agility cube and prevent 3 again. Then we hit side A of the Dreadful Raid so we can continue to Vorn. He's going to position between the Gorgon Hexer and the Nagian Hunter to make use of his Cleave 2, taking the Gorgon to 3 and the Hunter to 9. Now we have Katharina's turn. She takes 2 damage from the poison, going to 6 health. Then we will use a magic cube for heroic absorption on the green Gorgon Hexer, stunning and taking it to 10 health. Then, to give us some more space, now that the center is getting crowded, we are going to back up 3 spaces and put ourselves at disadvantage to attack the Gorgon Hexer with Black Plague, meaning we hit on a 9 or higher, but a successful hit will kill it. And we got just the 9 we needed. Then we will use our free minor action to test our luck a little and see the next surprise. And I am definitely surprised and delighted to have found a cat trinket. Christie's Kitten gives us the passive ability. Whenever you hit a character with a weapon attack or spell attack, push them 1. If they fall off to a lower dungeon level, they also suffer knockdown. And I do love the theme around this kitten, just like a cat getting up on your counters and swatting things off. So we will go ahead and equip that to Katharina, and then the Gorgon Hexers activate. The green one is stunned, so we will just remove that condition and move the white one forward to attack Andreas for 5 since it can't reach Vakram. And we will use our Exquisite Mail and gain a Curse Cube to increase its prevent to 5 to suffer no damage. That will end the turn and send it over to Nyx. We will start by moving 1 space to the rune pile and expend a range cube to remove the last rune. There's no end to them. The battle for the wharf remains unsolved. No matter how much your efforts have held the perimeter up until now, the sea of enemies is endless and the final victory seems ever more distant. As victory becomes impossible, it also becomes likely that none of this has been by chance. Eradrin is too quiet and remote a town for anything to happen here unintentionally, especially a supernatural phenomenon like this. Reflecting on this in the middle of the battlefield, you begin to believe that maybe even Minerva's disappearance may not have been a coincidence after all. And then we will summon another monster battalion, 2 gray monster and 2 white. Nyx will continue by using her agility cube for ninjutsu and gaining 1 focus and swapping with the stone fountain. Then we will use our free minor action to use our focus ability, Blood Toll, to give us another cube action this turn. We will take a willing recall to increase our options. And then we will pounce on the pink Nagini Hunter with a melee cube. And an 8 will hit, and it will go to 6 health and gain 4 bleed since it is still considered fine. Then we will draw 1 rune and go to Vakram. Now we're going to move Vakram 3 spaces and then use dash with an agility cube to move another 3 spaces and recall an agility cube. And then we will use Relentless for a +3 to hit and +3 damage, and Keen. And a 19 hits, which will also trigger the Keen, doubling our 7 damage to 14 and killing the Gorgon Hexer. So before we start with the Nagian Hunters, I want to note that we fixed the health and the bleed tokens for them, and we also fixed our battalion over here using the correct rules, having them all near the pile of runes, which just means as spread out as much as possible within range 1, so each of them going into a separate square. And we will go ahead and start with the Pink Hunter, moving 1 space to attack Vakram for 4 since the charge will not activate. Vakram has 2 shield from Andreas, so that will knock 2 off, meaning we're taking 2 more damage, but we will go ahead and use a magic cube on our leather armor to prevent that last 2, and then gain us a move 2, and we're going to hop right into the thick of it right here in the middle of everybody. This is going to do 2 things for us. It's going to keep our +1 damage bonus when it becomes our turn, and we're going to be just out of range for the brown Nagian Hunter. You'll see how close it can get when it's its turn to move. So next will be the red Nagian Hunter. Who's only going to be able to move those 5 spaces. And now the brown Nagian Hunter, moving 5, is able to get all the way up there. So we really kind of had to move to that position or even further back out of the way if we wanted to avoid that charge attack for 8 damage. But we did that successfully, and now we have our neon Nagian Hunter adjacent to us attacking for another 4. And now I think Vakram's gotten a little tired of constantly being targeted, so he is not going to prevent any of this. We are just going to take 4 with Vakram, going down to 8 health. And after taking 4 damage, we also get Intimidate 1 onto Vakram, and then that Nagian Hunter will enrage, so they have +1 damage until they are defeated. For the start of Andreas' turn, we are going to use our move, and we're going to squeeze through some allies here. First Nyx, Vakram, and then to get to this spot for 3. And we're going to start with using our melee cube defensive strike. We'll give ourselves the 2 shield for this, and we get +3 to attack. And we are going for the white Gorgon Hexer. Okay, and a 2 is a miss. We will follow that up with another melee cube on Vigorous Strike. This is going to heal 2, and Vakram is within melee range, so he'll go up to 10 health. And then we get +2 to hit and bash. So let's go ahead and roll for our attack. Okay, a 19 will hit. So again, the white Gorgon Hexer will go down to 9. And then we will go ahead and spend our 2 shield to bash and make another attack. And we'll let Vakram, since he's within melee range, make this attack because he'll gain that +3 bonus. So we need a 4 or higher to hit the white Gorgon Hexer again. And we got a nat 20. I really cannot believe how many nat 20s we've got on this. So another 6 to the Gorgon Hexer takes it down to 3. And with that, Andreas will end his turn and we will go to the Nightmares. The Orange Nightmare is going first, and we are going towards either Nyx or Andreas since they both have 2 curse cubes. And we can get to Nyx in 1 move as opposed to 3 for Andreas, so the Orange Nightmare will move to attack Nyx. And Nyx is being attacked for 2, so she will spend a range cube on the cloth armor to prevent 2. And the next Nightmare is already adjacent to her, but she will go ahead and spend her other range cube on the cloth armor as well to prevent 2. And then we hit the Dreadful Raid card. So it is side B, so we will go ahead and manifest a rune. We got the Gray Rune. And we will continue to summon these raid parties at that far corner pile of runes by the door. And now we can take it to Vorn, and with our move 4, we're going to be able to slide him around back here next to the Gorgon Hexer and the Brown Hunter, and then attack with his Cleave 2, dealing 3 to both. So the Nagian Hunter will go down to 9, and then that 3 is enough to kill the Gorgon Hexer. Now at the start of Katharina's turn, let's go ahead and go over this stone fountain. When you interact with a stone fountain, you're going to flip it over and then find one of 3 things happen. You are either going to discover fresh water, which will give you 2 health and cleanse 2. You're going to find an empowerment potion, which will inspire and empower your character and give you an additional cube action this turn. Or you will find the toxic inoculation, and the drinking character is going to suffer poison 4. So we're going to start by moving forward a little and interacting with that to try to get that cleanse to get rid of our poison. But if we don't and we end up getting that poison 4, at least we already have poison 2, so that will only go up to poison 4. And then we also have ways with Katharina to deal with that. So let's see what we got underneath this stone fountain. We will move forward 2 and interact. Okay, and it's the toxic inoculation. So we go up to poison 4 with Katharina. And I forgot to mention, we of course did take the 2 poison at the start of our turn, going down to 4 health. And then we will continue our movement 1 more space forward. Now for Katharina's first cube action, we're going to use our magic cube for Soul Link, dealing 2 damage to the pink Nagian Hunter, putting it down to 1 health. And then we are allowed to move a condition stack from one target hero to a target enemy. So we are going to choose the poison 4 we just got on Katharina and move it over onto another enemy. And I think we will choose that light green Nagian Hunter that has the +1 damage. Giving that 4 poison is going to be a huge help to getting rid of that before it can attack. And then she will perform an Unwilling Recall. And to end Katharina's turn, we will use a magic cube for Heroic Absorption, but this time to heal 4 and cleanse on herself, going back to 8 full health and getting rid of that curse cube. Then it'll be the Gorgon Hexer's turn. We were lucky to take care of the ones close to us, so now we'll just start with the dark blue, moving 3. And then the light blue. And Katharina will gain shield 1 from the passive for healing herself. Now for Nyx's turn, we're going to start with a Blade Distortion melee ability. We get +2 to hit and bleed 2. And then we'll be able to replicate all conditions the target has on another target. So we need a 5 or higher to hit, and a 10 will hit. So that will take the light green Hunter down to 9. We'll give it bleed 2, and then we get to give bleed 2 and poison 4 to another enemy in melee range, and we will go ahead and put that entire stack on the Orange Nightmare that only has 6 health. So whenever that Nightmare activates, it already has enough condition damage alone to just kill it. After that, we will move Nyx 3 spaces, getting us out of combat so we're able to make a ranged attack also on the light green Hunter. And we will use a range cube to do a ranged sucker punch onto the light green Hunter. That's going to give us +2 to hit, and then we're going to self curse 1 and stealth. So a 5 or higher to hit, and a 19 hits. That will take the light green down to 6, and now it is also going to die to condition damage with its 2 bleed and 4 poison at the start of its turn. So the +1 damage from the enrage will never even get to matter. And now we will draw 2 more runes and go up to Vakram. And now Vakram is going to start his turn out by using his Potion of Haste. So we're going to discard this as our minor action to get an additional cube action this turn. Then for his first cube action, Vakram is going to use a melee cube for Staggering Strike, giving us +0 to hit, but stun if we hit onto the Red Nightmare. And a 15 will hit. So the Red Nightmare, I get +1 from being adjacent to 2 or more enemies, but I also have Intimidate, so those just negate each other, and I'll deal 3 damage to the Red Nightmare, bringing it down to 3, and then I'll get to remove that stack of Intimidate. And next, I'll use my ranged ability, Bounty, which is a spell attack, so I can use it while engaged to deal 1 damage to the Pink Nagian Hunter, and if this is the killing blow, we also get to draw from the chest deck. And we drew another Scroll of Protection for Vakram. And we still have 1 more cube action because we used that Potion of Haste, so we're going to do an Unwilling Recall first. And now we will move Vakram 3 to make sure these hunters don't get their charge abilities in, and then we will do a Bravado Melee Strike at the Brown Nagian Hunter. We roll +3 to hit, so a 4 or higher, and 11 will do it. 3 damage to the Nagian Hunter, takes it down to 6. It also gets Intimidate 2. And actually, we are adjacent to 2 enemies, so it's going to take 1 more damage and go down to 5. So the Red Nagian Hunter is going to go first, starting by attacking us for 4. And Vakram will use his Magic Cube to prevent 3 using the Endure skill. Meaning we will take 1, Intimidate 1, and then that one will Enrage, gaining that +1 damage token. Next, the Brown Nagian Hunter will attack for 2 because it has the Intimidate 2, and we'll use our Agility Cube on our leather armor to prevent that last 2 and move 2 spaces backwards. And then lastly, our Light Green Nagian Hunter will activate, and it has 2 bleed and 4 poison at 6 health, so it will perish from taking condition damage. And then it will be Andreas' turn. Andreas will start his turn by moving 3, well, only moving 2. And because of our aura, we are within range 2 to make an attack on that Red Nightmare, which we will do with our Bolt. And we get +5 to hit on that, so we need a 2 or higher. And not hard to do, so we got the 18, and it only had 3 health left, so that will kill this Nightmare. Then we'll use our Magic Cube on Remove Curse to heal 2 and cleanse 1 on Vakram, putting him at 11 health and getting rid of that Intimidation stack. Then Andreas will perform an Unwilling Recall and end his turn. And now we'll take a nice wide look at the board as our Nightmares activate. And we'll start with the yellow one in the back, moving 4. And then the green. And lastly, the orange, which has all the condition tokens on it, meaning that will just take it out. And we follow that up with side A of the Dreadful Raid, meaning we are just going to flip it over since there are still monsters on the board and go to Vorn. So we're just going to reposition Vorn a little bit right here to avoid some potential damage we could take from the Gorgon Hexers when they activate, giving up our ability to cleave, but I think it's going to be worth it to keep him around for a little bit longer, and we will deal 3 damage to the Orange Hunter, taking it down to 2. And for Katharina's turn, we're going to start by moving 3, getting her up from all the way in the back, but I haven't forgotten about that interaction token, so we're going to use our free minor action to do that. And I think this time around, we've got half of the board cleared off. I think we're going to go ahead and ask him to go and say that we can take care of the people. Overwhelmed by a selfless impulse, you tell the soldier to retreat because you will keep the perimeter safe all by yourself. What? Are you suggesting that Sergeant Bach Carter retreat? Don't you see that Aradrin cries out for my help? I'm not moving. It's out of the question, he retorts, annoyed as if your suggestion was offensive. Now we make a Wisdom Blue skill challenge of difficulty 13. Each Wisdom cube I have grants me a +2 bonus to my roll, and if we were either Path of Devotion or Path of Strength, we would just succeed without rolling, but we're the Path of Mystics. Luckily, we do have 2 blue cubes, so we're going to get +4 to this, meaning we need a 9 or higher. And we got an 18, so on a success. However, you were speaking with the certainty of someone who had the situation under control. I'll do what you ask, but you are in for it if you don't board that ship. I'll kill you. I will kill you, the soldier urges, promising to kill you a second time if you don't get out of this mess alive. Here, at least take this. You'll need it more than me. He hands you the banner he was brandishing ferociously. First, we take the Hippocampus banner card from the adventure deck. Then we remove the interaction token. Okay, well, that was our last interaction, so we would have removed it anyway, so it's a good thing we didn't take this one as the first option. But if it was our first option, then we would also gain focus too. But since it was our second interaction, we are just going to gain the Hippocampus banner card. All right, I wasn't expecting to gain a second piece of equipment from this. All right, so the Hippocampus banner. This is going to give us the Eradrum claim ability. We get to claim and then target another hero, empower, and make them make a weapon attack of -1 to hit. So if we ever start using this, I'll get into those abilities. That's typically a Warlord ability, and that's the other side of the class that Vakram can play. So we'll see if we even end up using this. I have a feeling I think I'm actually going to use this as an equipment to upgrade our spoils. Then we will spend a melee cube in order to move Katharina 3 more spaces forward. And now the gang's all a little closer together. Katharina's going to go ahead and use a range cube for Black Bolt. We get +0 to hit. And we're going to go for the Nagian Hunter, this brown one. And now, the reason we're doing this is even if we miss because of her passive, we will still deal 2 damage to it, and it only has 2 health left, but with a 16 we did hit and take it out the old-fashioned way. That ends it for Katharina, and now it's on to the Gorgon Hexers. And I think with positioning, we've been able to mitigate most of this, so we'll start with the Dark Blue Hexer to move 3. And we will be able to attack Vakram from range 1 here. So Vakram is getting attacked for 5. Andreas is going to use a magic cube for Divert to prevent 3. And Vakram will use an agility cube on his leather armor to prevent 2, but we're going to stay right where we are. And then the light blue Gorgon Hexer will just be able to move 3 spaces and not be in range to hit anybody. So we'll go to Nyx. We are still in stealth with Nyx thanks to our Stalker trait, and we'll start by using our agility cube for ninjutsu to swap with this barrel. And then we'll use a magic cube to heal 2 and cleanse 1 on Andreas, taking him back to 10 health and getting rid of one of his curse cubes. And with that, we'll perform an unwilling recall, putting us up to 4 curse cubes, which is kind of dangerous. But we'll go ahead and use our free minor action for our focus ability, Blood Toll, which is going to give us 1 more cube action this turn. So before we use that cube action, we will move 3. Well, just 2 spaces to get next to this Gorgon Hexer. And we will use a melee cube for our Jack of all Blades weapon attack. We get +3 to hit and keen. And we are in stealth, so if we hit, this will deal 6 damage. Another natural 20. So in stealth, that doubles our damage to 6 for the surprise attack, and then the crit doubles it again to 12 damage, taking out the dark blue Gorgon Hexer in a single attack. And that will do it for Nyx, taking us to side A of the rune card, meaning we are going to draw 1 rune and then head back up to Vakram. Now with Vakram's turn, we've been waiting for a moment like this, so let's go ahead and move Vakram up 1 space, putting him within range 1 of this area, and then we are going to throw our combustible grenade for our minor action. Within range 1, we do strike 1, which means it targets the whole square, and each of them will take 4 spell attack damage and burn 4. Effectively, that will kill the Nightmare single-handedly on their turn, and it does wonders against that hunter as well. And since that was a minor action, we can keep moving, so we're just running and throwing this grenade ahead of us to move right here so we can get advantage on our attacks against the Red Nagian Hunter. And first with Vakram, we will use a melee cube for our arcing swing. It gets cleave 2 and +3 to hit, so a 4 or higher will hit both the Hexer and the Hunter. Okay, that's going to be another 8 damage because we get +1 damage with Vakram being adjacent to 2 or more enemies. We even got the +2 to hit on advantage, but we just keep rolling nat 20s. So that's 8 damage each to the Hunter, which is enough to just take it out with the burn setup we even had going on. And then another 8 to the Gorgon Hexer takes it down to 4. And we still have 1 more cube action with Vakram, so we'll go ahead and use our other melee ability, Relentless, to give us +3 to hit, keen, and +3 damage. So, I mean, if we hit, we will also take out this Hunter. And a 16 does it. It is even keen for another crit, and we are absolutely demolishing these enemies right now. The nightmares are basically dead. They have 4 burn on them each, so we are looking good right now. There are no more Nagian hunters, so it will go on to Andreas. And since we basically have no one left on the board at the moment, I'm going to go ahead and use our free miner action to see what our next surprise is here. And we have found another lost survivor. Rummaging through rubble, you reveal a hideout where a survivor sought refuge. What story do they have to tell? So now we go to resolution number 124. The Drunken Reveler. Slumped in the middle of a pile of ruined crates, a man with carnival clothes and the strongest liquor breath you've ever smelled doesn't seem to be that worried. But isn't the festival really good, he sobs. This year they even brought fireworks, look at that. He points to the city lost to the flames. This man, having survived all the dangers of this night, is irrevocable proof that there is a superior being watching over us. You now face a dilemma. You may ask the man to run towards the solemn quartermaster at the wharf square. If you choose to do so, we go to resolution number 125. On the other hand, you may ask the man to run towards the harbor and wait for the pristine swan. If you do this, go to resolution 126 instead. Well, we sent him away to the boat not too long ago. This was similar to our last dilemma. And so if it has a similar outcome, then let's go ahead and go to 126 and send him towards the pristine swan. You figure the man will be safe when he reaches the harbor, so you pull him to his feet and encourage him to run in one direction without even looking back. If there is an interaction token on the board, there is not, so we'll go to the other one. If the interaction token has already been removed from the board, the man stumbles his way to the harbor where he finds the captain's welcoming arms, and you write down the moves like Jagger aura on your campaign log. As long as you have it, so auras are removed when you receive a trauma cube or another aura. So with this one, we are going to lose our bonus to our range, but now we gain, whenever we take a reaction, we can also target another hero and inspire them. And so what inspiring is, it represents a morale boost. When a hero becomes inspired, they receive an inspiration token. And whenever you discard one of these, a hero can re-roll any d20 roll that they have just made, taking the second result even if it is lower than the first. So if you're familiar with D&D, it's very similar, almost the exact same. And now Andreas will go ahead and move 3 spaces. And now that we know we can ignore the nightmares, we're going to expend 1 melee cube to move 3 again. And we'll just move 2 to be adjacent to this rune pile, and then we will expend 1 more melee cube to remove 2 runes. And that will be it for Andreas. The nightmares will then act, and both of them are on burn 4, will be set ablaze and be gone. And with that, we have no more enemies on the board at the moment, but we're about to get to our dreadful raid. And so next we will manifest a rune. And we will just take those 2 we just burnt and put them back towards the door spawn. For Vorn's turn, we'll just move him 4 spaces. And go to Katharina. Katharina will start by moving 3 spaces. And she'll go ahead and use an agility cube to remove curse on Nyx, which she is at full health, so we're just going to use that to cleanse 1 curse cube off of her. And because of her passive, that will also put Nyx at 2 shield. And then lastly, we will use a magic cube to just ping the yellow nightmare for 2 damage with our soul link. And we don't have any Gorgon Hexers on the board, so it'll go to Nyx. And Nyx will have a pretty simple turn. We're just going to move 3 spaces. And then we will spend a cube to move another 2 to put us next to the pile of runes. And we'll say we expend a range cube for that, and then we'll go ahead and expend a melee cube to remove another 2 runes. And that is it for Nyx. So now we draw 2 runes and send it back to Vakram. And so with Vakram's turn, we are going to move 3 next to the pile of runes, and we will spend our range cube to remove the last rune and trigger that cutscene at the end of our turn. But first, we will use our last melee cube to remove Curse, heal 2, and cleanse 1 on Nyx. She is still at full health, so we just want to get rid of one of those Curse cubes, and then Vakram will perform an Unwilling Recall, and that will be the end of his turn. And now we can read the cutscene, Time for the Harvest. Finally, the battle for the wharf square is coming to an end. The last wave of refugees were now moving across to the harbor, bouncing among the shapeless carcasses that you have dispatched. You could never imagine that such a boring night would result in such an ugly battle, much less that it was not yet over when you claimed victory. There, from far away and in the dark, a monster watched you, patiently measuring your stature as a hunter does. Just as in nature, it was at that moment when you let down your guard and took the night for granted that the enemy advanced, a figure that crosses the fire, smoke, and darkness with the pomp and grace of a born predator. The terrifying lurker waited until the last of the refugees cleared the room so that he could then reveal himself, for he had the largest of prey in mind and he didn't want anyone in his path. The creature's appearance, reminiscent of the image and likeness of the ancient gods, was not unknown to you. You had run into it earlier, a statue of leaves and bark where people left offerings as their ancestors did long ago, at a time when humans had not yet known the doctrine. The smell of rot and vile magic, however, you didn't recognize. It was something new, a charming touch to the most dangerous night of the year. So now we have been instructed to summon the Soul Harvester Commander. Its commander points are going to be equal to 2 times the party size, so 8, meaning it's going to have 80 health. It's a melee unit. It's got large monster immunities and also immune to stealth and intimidate. It can move 3 spaces. It strikes 2 full blue squares and inflicts poison 2. And since it's on that orange rune, we currently have 5 on there, so its attack is at 5. And we have reached our in-game trigger, so it will end in one of 2 ways. Either we will defeat the Soul Harvester, or the Soul Harvester will wipe us out, and we'll have 2 different scenarios depending on what happens. And we have already drawn our 4 commander cards and placed them on the initiative track, and we will take a closer look at each of those as we get to them. All right, and with the summoning of the Soul Harvester, we will save this ending for the next episode. This has been Solo Party. My name is Kane, and I will see you all next time.